Hi everyone, I hope you're doing good. I am testing out my phone where I'm at right now to see if it is going to do a good recording or not. And so trying to get a good background there for you guys. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing good. I am coming on completely raw and authentic. I have no eyeliner on today, and yeah, I'm just kind of here and thought that it would be a good day to do a live video. I did a video not too long ago, and it was kind of just revealing a little bit more about me, so my viewers can get to know me a little bit better. And it didn't turn out, so I had to delete it, and I said I would be back again for some more, and so here I am. So I basically have a list of some information about me and how far I've come, what's going on with my life, and me just letting go of my story. One of my favorite songs is by Paul Isaac, and he was talking and singing about, letting go of our story. No one's really listening, anyways. And really, what it comes down to is being able to release and let go and surrender, and not allowing our past to continue to control us and to keep us in a place of stagnation or in a place of fear, a binding that we can't get out of. And so, anyways, because we are creators and co creators, it's important to know this. And I thought as I was writing all the stuff down about my story, this life, the character I've been playing, all the things that have kind of been used to shape me and to form an identity, all of these thought forms, constructs, memories, all of this. And the process of awakening is letting go of all of that and just letting it go, releasing it, surrendering it, knowing that we are not our thoughts. We are not these programmed conditions. We are not even our belief systems, because these continue to change and shift as we grow and evolve and move more towards who we truly are. I believe as divine spirit, incarnated as either men or women, children, whoever, wherever we're at right now. So I'm just kind of coming on here. I thought this was important to talk about because I think a lot of people are stuck in a story that they do not like, and they're not sure of how to create a new story. And as I talk, I'm just going to be real and kind of show how it can be so hard sometimes to let go of it, because by the time we're about 7 years old, they say, the neuropsychologists, scientists say that we are pretty much programmed and conditioned on our identity. However, there is neuroplasticity, meaning our brains, our bodies, everything is ever changing and evolving. And so we aren't stuck with where we're at right now. And that's really important for people to know. But we can see how the subconscious, which they say is about 95% of where we're working off of every day, we're using our subconscious to continue to kind of go through our daily lives and being on autopilot, being unconscious. And then all of a sudden, when a spiritual awakening happens, our conscious, that 5%, starts to go, whoa, no, I'm supposed to be in the driver's seat. And we have some work to do, some surrendering to do, in order to, yeah, realize that our thoughts are not, these emotions that we've been having are not ours, and that we can shut off old belief systems so that we can make room for the new. So it was a little bit cold. I'm going to take off my hood now, and I have my paper here, like I said, and I'm just going to read through some of the major things in my life. And I'm going to start out kind of with health stuff, because when I was growing up, I did not realize that food is thy medicine and medicine is thy food. And I really, just all through my life until most recently, I didn't know that our health has everything to do with our personalities and just our attitudes and our mood. I mean, it goes very deep. And so I think that cleaning up our bodies is very, very important, and it's something that we totally have control over. So it's a good place for me to focus on, and I think for each of you guys that it's something that you can really start to look at and see what things can you make changes, where can you make these changes in your life, what do you want to do, and then start to experience what happens as you make lifestyle changes in your diet, in your exercise, in your sleeping, and all of that type of stuff. So basically what I'm going to do, boy, I have a really long list, and I'm going to just run through the major stuff. When I was really little, my mom and dad, they divorced when I was like 4, and my dad was an alcoholic, and they had a very bad relationship. And I have an older sister who is 2 years older, and just a lot of things happened in the relationship, and they were, yeah, it just wasn't good. But I loved my dad. I remember when I would get sad when they separated, and I would cry out for him, I want my dad, I want my dad, and stuff like that. But I remember also having a speech impediment when I was in preschool, and they had me in a language type, well, just speech therapy. And I hated it, and I was embarrassed to talk, and it's really hard, the R's and different things like that. So I just remember being embarrassed and hating that. I remember going up to people and hitting them with my forehead, like in their nose or in their forehead. Like I'd just go up and I'd do that, and then people would be like, "Ow!" And it's strange, but I will go into this later, that I actually during stressful times would almost feel like hitting my head on the wall right in that same place. So, I didn't know why I did it. I was really young at the time. Other things, I had ear infections continually. I had warts all over my hands, all over. I was a gymnast. I started at the age of 4, and I had a weak bladder. And that was really hard because as a gymnast, you're, in a suit and stuff like that. And so I didn't know why that was. And my mom did have me go into the doctor and get checked out, see if it was a physical thing or whatever. And they said they could maybe do surgery, but they never went after the actual cause, which is adrenal fatigue and, stuff like that. So I had no clue. I didn't connect it with the physical. In 4th grade, I had mono for 3.5 months, and my liver and my spleen were very much enlarged. I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't go to school or anything like that. And I remember just getting a new bike. I wanted to go ride my horse, and I loved gymnastics. I breathed, slept, everything was gymnastics. I even cut my hair really short like Mary Lou Retton when I was little. Wore my gymnastics suit like every day. My best friend and I would set up these different like stations at our house, and we would do strength stations, like push-ups in one place, dance in another, sit-ups in another. The beam, her dad made a beam for us, or for her, but we used it. And yeah, we would do that for hours and hours, or we would act like horses and jump over it. But anyways, tons of fun with that. I had bronchitis over and over again, and sinus infections, and took amoxicillin like it was candy. I loved the pink stuff. I would just like drink it. Yep. I had extreme light sensitivity and pale lips. And again, I did not realize that was associated with adrenal fatigue. And I would be so scared, like in 5th grade. I would be on the bus riding to school or home, and it would be sunny out or just bright, and my eyes would start watering really bad, and I would have to shut them, and I'd be so scared that I would get to a bus stop, because I was very shy anyways, and I wouldn't be able to see to get off the bus, and I would miss my stop. That's what I was worried about. Or I couldn't just, get off to go to school. That's how bad it was. I had a concussion in 5th grade. A dog tripped me with his leash, and I hit the back of my head really hard. I went to school anyways, and my mom had me go. And then I got really sick, and I came home, and I didn't eat pancakes for a long time after that. I had my tonsils and adenoids removed in 5th grade because of what the conventional doctors thought I should do with having strep throat, sinus infections, bronchitis, and all of that. I had many teeth pulled in 8th grade. I had too many teeth in my mouth. My teeth actually weren't too crooked, but I just had too many, and so they removed several baby ones and then some adult ones as well. And I remember that being a very horrible experience. Just a lot of, like swallowing blood, and it was gross. So I don't want to say too much, but I'm just saying it was a traumatic, not so fun experience. I had tailbone injuries from gymnastics. My friend was playing around at school and body slammed me on the cement. And yeah, we thought that was fun playing around like that. And I also got bucked off of several horses when I was training them and right onto my tailbone, over the head onto my tailbone. I got a spine crack somewhere around 7th or 8th grade. I was doing a triple flip into a pit. I don't know if you've ever seen those deep pits at the gymnastics buildings with a whole bunch of foam in them. Well, I opened up at the wrong time, and basically my feet touched my head, but very fast, and so it cracked my spine. So they made a kind of a makeshift kind of back brace for me. I already had been diagnosed with slight scoliosis of the upper spine, which runs in my family. And then I had a very bloated stomach, and I will get into kind of what I like to eat as a kid because I was a junk gut and loved a lot of sugar, which makes sense because I had so much fungus in my body. I basically in 8th grade started to get go into puberty, and I started to get larger breasts, which kind of just runs in the family as well. And now I know that's related to the pituitary gland, which if I was taller, which is also related to the pituitary gland, it wouldn't have been as bad, but I am short. I'm 5'1", and we are very short in my family. So again, had no clue about the physical and where that has been coming from for generations in my family. Very sore feet. I worked at the fair for many years. I worked at a scones place. I worked at a Boop's place, corn dog place, which I loved their ice cream, and you dip it in the chocolate and the nuts. So see, my food that I ate, and I loved ice cream and all that. Anyways, I had a hard time because my feet, I seriously felt like crying and like tiptoeing across the ground when I worked there because my feet were so sore. I had no clue about foot reflexology or iridology or any of that, realizing that that had to do with, our feet or our hands or our eyes show us a roadmap to the rest of our bodies. And my gut was in very bad shape. My menstrual cycle started around 14 or 15, and then they put me on the pill. And I thought, oh, great, yeah, because they tell you all kids, they go, oh, your period's going to be lighter and, all this kind of stuff. And it's going to help with heavy flow and cramps. And again, they don't tell you the cause of that and why that's going on, having to do with the pituitary gland. And then, it goes into other areas of our bodies as well, and why that's going on, and the need to heal and to detox and fast. That's how you do it, and taking care of ourselves. I was very depressed all through my childhood, and then teenage years and early adulthood. I had some times where I wasn't as depressed, but it really was an issue. And I remember in about 8th grade, someone at a party, because I didn't like parties, but I did go to one because I really liked this girl. She was so sweet and nice, and they had this huge mansion house, the swimming pool. But I was in the other room kind of being to myself because I was so shy. And they came up and they're like, you're really an unhappy person, aren't you? And I remember that really affected me because they were right about that, but I was trying to hide it. And so I just remember them saying that. in about 7th, 8th grade, I started to get phobias. I had a hard time walking down the hall at school. I just felt like everything was closed in and that everyone was looking at me. I was just so worried about everything. Um, I had dysphoria also of my mouth. I actually chewed gum for almost a year because I didn't like my mouth just being in one place. And I've said this in one other video, but I mean, there was an um, a focus on different parts of my body that I just could not step away from. It was not fun. I ended up getting braces twice because I wanted my teeth really straight. So I did it. My mom had them put on it when in like 8th grade, which I hated them. And then I got them again as a young adult. Let's see. There was something else I missed, but we'll see later. I ended up getting diagnosed. Well, they put me on antidepressants in my teenage years. First, it was, trying to remember which one they put me on. Prozac. And then I had to sign a thing, I won't commit suicide, because they made you sign those things because of the effects of these drugs. And then later I went on to some different ones which caused me to become angry, more of a dopamine type thing. And then I used Wellbutrin. So, I think that all this stuff is really important because it shows kind of what's been going on in our bodies. And of course, back then, because I'm 41 now, they didn't have as many vaccinations as they do now. But yes, my mom basically took me to the doctor for everything, and I got every shot. And, I didn't question anything, except for I was the child who ran down the doctor's office screaming to not get that shot. I remember doing that many times. Let's see. I was diagnosed with a thyroid disorder, hypothyroidism, when I was 17. Put on the pill for that. They said I'd be on it for the rest of my life. That runs also in my family. My mom, my aunt, my grandma, my sister. And then in my early 20s, they diagnosed me with Hashimoto's. And so just basically it was getting worse and worse. And they weren't helping to heal me, and I had no clue what was going on. I did have a breast reduction when I was about 20, and that again was because of the body dysphoria, and I did not like having a larger breast. And so I did that. Like I said, I'm 5'1", and I actually am very happy with my body shape and everything. But if I had to go back again, I would have tried to do many things with my health before I did that, because it was very hard to nurse all of my kids, not only because of the breast reduction, but because of my thyroid issues. And we need to be happy with who we are. And so if I did it again, I would want it for different reasons and to be more at peace with myself. So I just wasn't in a good place, so that's why I would want things to be different. So that's basically it with the health issues. I did get some cavities when I've had 5 little ones, and my first was at about age 23, and then my second was at age 25. I had 2 miscarriages before my third little girl, and so the first 2 were girls. 2 miscarriages in the first trimester, but they were later, about 9-10 weeks, and one of them was very hard on my body, a lot of just bleeding and cramping and headaches, and just emotionally how that was. And then after my third daughter was born, 5 years later, I had 2 more miscarriages because there was a separation with my girl's dad and me. When we were married, I got married about age 23. because we were pregnant with my first, and I did not want to be having a child without being married, because I was a devout Christian. I felt like, oh, judgment, and I needed to do these things. And even though I knew deep down it wasn't the right relationship, we had separated so many times, but I thought, no, we're going to grow together. Things are going to change. And, always looking on the bright, trying to look on the brighter side of things. I was very much involved in church and stuff like that, and just trying so hard to have a good foundation. And I thought that I could change him, and that's not good. We don't ever want to be with people that we are trying to change. We just have to accept people for who they are. And if I had to go back, I would have been, yeah, loving myself and just not being searching for love outside of me. And so that's what I would say to people, young people who may be watching, my daughters who may be watching. The right person will come at did get remarried. I got engaged, and this was a time when I was in my master's degree program, because during this whole time, my 10-year marriage, I was at OSU at the time. I had left school after I had gotten pregnant. I was stressed. I had 3 horses that got hurt, one after the other, with various injuries. I wanted to be on the gymnastics team. It didn't work out there. It just seemed like I just didn't want to be in school anymore. And I was trying to control the way my life went. And it ended up, I got pregnant, and I was raising my husband we weren't married at the time, but he had 2 younger kids who were 6 and 7, and I was too young, but I tried. I loved them, but I was the one doing all the work, and it was so hard. And I ended up one time spanking them for something, and I felt so bad afterwards. I vowed that I was not going to spank my kids, and I pretty much kept to that, used timeouts, but I went to the extreme. Like, I just felt like, oh my goodness, when that happened, it, impacted my heart, and I didn't want to be that way. And so that was a hard time. I even went to summer school with them, trying to help them with their behavioral issues. They were on different IEP plans and stuff like that, especially the boy. And they really were reaching out for their dad, but weren't able to connect. So I don't want to get into too much about that, but I just want to say, that when I got remarried, I was trying to do everything to continue my life and to make it better. And I thought I was on a good path. I had gone to OSU psychology degree, like I was going for a psychology degree. And then I went to George Fox University for a completion program, social and behavioral sciences. And I ended up not completing that right away, but I did finally, after about the time my 3rd daughter was born, I completed that. And then I was like, things aren't working out. My husband and I, we finally separated for the last time. In 10 years, we were probably together about 5 years of that. And it was just so stressful. It was hard. I would go out looking for him when he'd leave the house, and I just felt, as a young woman, I wanted so much for it to work out, and I was holding on and trying to control everything, and being alone with little kids was so hard. And I actually got back with him to have my 3rd daughter, because I couldn't imagine being alone. And then he was on the road during it, and I ended up having her by myself anyways. He did come afterwards, but it's interesting when we try to control things. We think, we're gonna do this, this, and this, and it actually adds pain and suffering to our life, because we're not in connection with source. We're not on our right path, or the path that is laid out for us. And so I have been learning the hard way for a very, very long time. And so when I went into the completion, I decided, nope, I'm not going to procrastinate or anything. And I did a really good job. I was proud of myself. I graduated, did my internship at OSP in the chapel, which is the maximum prison for like, well, just men, and it's in Salem, Oregon. And so I learned a lot while I was there, not to judge, or started me on that road to not judge and to just see people from where they are right now, meeting them where they are and trying to move forward. So that basically is probably the biggest things that I wanted to talk about. I've come a long ways. I will say that, like when I was little, my mom, with my dad, he was alcoholic. They left, divorced. He kidnapped us at one time. I remember crying because he beat up my grandpa, and we watched. And then he held my mom, at that time at gunpoint, and wouldn't let her leave. I remember us driving away in a little Volkswagen Bug, being scared for her. Um, a man tried to kidnap me when I was in about third or fourth grade, and I remember running to the house and being so scared and calling my mom. She worked across the street at the mall at the pet store. That really sank in. I was sexually molested from second to fourth grade, and that was from my mom's boyfriend, and also my sister and some neighbors. And luckily, at that time, things are different with CPS now, but we weren't taken. If it were today, we would have been taken from her. A lot of things have changed. A lot of the people taking kids unconsciously don't realize that they very well could have been taken, most of them, from their parents, or their parents from their parents, and it would have been a separation and a lot of trauma in their family lineage from these types of things happening. And there's been a shift in norms. We hear now the new norm, but there's been a shift in what the norms are, and kids being raised, and who's fit and who's not, and who should be in control and who shouldn't. Hi, baby girl. I love you so much. So there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. I got scared when I was in about fourth grade, around the time when this man was arrested and stuff. And all of a sudden, I went into gymnastics, and I was all of a sudden scared to start tumbling backwards. I just completely lost a huge part of my gymnastics career. I wanted to go to the Olympics, of course, like all little kids do, but it just all came out of nowhere. I had some injuries in the past, where once I was dropped on my head when I was doing a sukahara on the vault, and I did a back handspring once and hit someone and kind of fell down. But this came like out of nowhere. It wasn't anywhere near these times, which was interesting. And that basically ruined my gymnastics career. And then, like I said, I had the bladder issues, and that was embarrassing. And I had a lot of reproductive issues, because I did have to use sanitary napkins and stuff like that. And I talked about this before. I'm sorry if this is kind of personal and gross, but I did use, and they sell them over the counter now, but I used tampons in order to stop the from having to go to the restroom, like from I guess I don't know how to exactly say this and how they go out and promote these things, but it's supposed to help to stop you from leaking. And so you use it like a regular tampon, and I use this every day, 5 days a week as well. And then on competition days, so we worked out 5 days a week, and then for 5 hours, and then we competed on Saturdays. And so when I went to the doctor for the discharge that I had, they just gave me ointment. So again, did not go after the cause, did not help me with anything. And what I want to help people to realize is that our physical health has everything to do with kind of what's going on with just the other areas of our lives. And so it's important to pay attention and to focus on our health, and to make sure that we do those things right now that we do have control over. And we have control over what we eat. We have control over what we read and what we listen to and what we put our time into and our energy into, how we exercise or not, and stuff like that. Um, One of the hardest things for me is to see my kids not as active, my, girls, not as active as we were, because when we were together, we were completely active doing tennis and soccer and horses and going to the beach and going all over the place. And we really didn't do TV too much, didn't do video games, tried to really keep them just in nature and using creativity. Now, when CPS came in 2014, a lot changed. I started researching and I just tried to do everything I could in order to learn how to stand empowered. But there's a lot to learn. It's hard when people first get into this. And so this goes more into the stress and the survival mode. When CPS comes and when they came into my life, it really exacerbated the survival mode I was already in, and really the programming and conditioning just sunk in more, and I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't realize the fear and how this all plays into what we are attracting back to us and how things are going on. And I talked in one of my other videos about my grandma and her life, and how she lost her little baby, died of SIDS. Well, I don't know what they diagnosed it with at the time, but she actually suffocated. And my grandma tried to get someone to help her, and she totally lost it after that. Her whole life changed. That was her first baby. And then they took all of her farms and her horses and everything when I was in about fourth grade. Again, about the time I had the fear of the back tumbling and when I, the molestation stuff stopped and all of that kind of stuff. And that was a traumatic time. And they used to have people chase us around, the people that took her farms and alleged some false allegations against her. They would chase our families around all the time and be spying on us. And I just remember as a kid it being exciting, but also scary. So things, when I talk about my life and what's going on, some people may go, wow, look at her. She's talking about this stuff, but she still doesn't have her kids back yet. And all I can say is this is a process. I'm 41. My story that I've been living, this character that I've been living, I have been learning how to surrender, how to let go of the story, and how to create a new one. And all the stuff that I've been talking about, that's not even everything, but that is why it can be so hard for us to get to higher ground. And it is a process. I want people to know, don't give up. When I'm speaking, you do have to speak in a way that your current circumstances aren't going to matter. What you see on the outside doesn't change what's going on internally. So we continue to do affirmations. I continue to do yin yoga and qigong. I continue to do Wim Hof breathing. I just started hot and cold therapy just this last week, where I'm in the shower and I will do a 2-minute hot shower. Then I switch it to cold for 2 minutes, switch it back to hot for 2 minutes, cold. I do it 3 times. This is for my thyroid. And I have noticed a big change with the Wim Hof breathing, the fruit fasting, the detoxing I do, intermittent fasting, and just, yeah, all of this stuff works together, and the stretching and releasing the tensions. I have a lot still kept up in my body, and I am doing everything. And I think that change can happen instantaneously, but I also think that there's areas in our lives where we have life learning lessons, and so it's going to take longer. And so we just have to keep going. And so when I share my story, there's going to be a day I come on here, because I'm rewriting my story, where I'm going to be saying, hey, look how far I've come. I mean, I've already come a huge ways since I was little and where I am and how I am just approaching and facing anything that comes my way, and just the healing that has taken place. When CPS came, that was the hardest time, one of the hardest times. And when we were fled to Mexico because of the true threat to my family, and me trying as a mom to do everything I could, only having half the story out, and that's what was being used. And I started to know what these court banks were about, these kangaroo, systems in place. I started to see what was going on, and yes, I was in a place of fear. That's what was driving me. My health was in bad shape. I just found out I was, pregnant 2 days before they came. I had had a whole year of just being in complete stress, to a point where I even drove right into a CPS car parked at, well, they call themselves DHS, but they were parked at my sister's to do a child welfare check at her child care, daycare center. And I was driving back after having, being told that I had to divorce my husband for, my little, well, my boy was 2 months at the time. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And I drove right into their car. And yes, Shay, she could get a healing halo. And the sad story that I've been living is the one that I am surrendering. And I'm just kind of putting it out there so that people can hopefully learn that, when I'm talking, I'm coming from a place where I've been there. And yeah, there's been a lot of pain and suffering for all of us. And so there's still stuff I have to get out and let go of. And I don't ignore it anymore. It has to come out. And I keep healing. And so as we create these new stories, one day we'll wake up and, yeah, you're going to see how far you've come, and that there's been a lot of things happening that you can look back on and go, wow, I learned a lot, and thank you. And it, all of a sudden you're like, I don't even remember that life anymore. I don't even remember that story anymore. And that is the time when we've completely surrendered and let go, because the surrendering process is something you do a little bit every day, a little bit every day. And at some point you just cross that river and you're able to be who you truly are. All those labels, the identities that we've been given at around the age of 7, we are like pretty set in where we are. Our subconscious is taking over our unconscious, but there is an awakening that happens when we step into the driver's seat and we begin to create the changes we want to see in the world by being that change, by being the love and the light. And so I'm going to be talking about my health. I'll talk about the processes that I'm going through in a wise way, because I'm learning a lot. And so I'm going to be doing it at the right time, right, way, and just stuff like that, because it's important for us to share when we are being prompted to share in a certain way. But I think that I can help people and encourage them in their health to really focus on that, because it will lift you up out of those places that have been holding you hostage. And the rest of the world doesn't think like this. They don't realize that, yes, food is thy medicine. Let that medicine be thy food. And right there, you're empowered. And when you start seeing what's going on in the systems and the courts, and the veil starts to lift more and more, then there's more and more freedom that comes as we step into our power. True freedom comes when we let go and surrender into knowing we're divine spirits incarnated into either a man or a woman, a girl or a boy, whatever, we are here. And there's life lessons we've got to learn. We came here to learn. We get to learn. So I wanted to put the story out for you, not to make you guys feel sorry for me or to go, oh man, or anything like that. I want to show you that I am letting go of that story. I'm creating my new one with my vision boards and continuing forward, doing everything I can and taking care of myself and knowing that, yeah, every day we can create more and more of what we want in this life. And unity is very important. We are one. So I look at you, Shay. I look at your sisters. Doesn't matter where our relationships are, but I look at all of us as you are me and I am you. And so I want to do everything I can to be there for you. So, anyways, I love you. I miss you too. And sorry this is so long. It's hard to kind of go through all the things about me and kind of how far I've come and letting go of the story. This is for people who might just be interested in, watching this one day. And if they've had a really rough go as well, I encourage you, and I want this to encourage you that the story isn't over. It's just beginning. And that's what the spiritual awakening is about. And we're gonna make it out of these places, even though the external doesn't look like it right now. Just know that it will happen. All right, I love you guys, and I will talk to you very soon. And I thank you for just watching this and supporting me. And click like, share, subscribe. And Shanna, I hope that we're able to talk soon. My phone's off again, but when you're able to, you can email me. And I always love seeing you on here. Thank you so much. And yes, I talked to your dad a couple days ago. He came to the beach. We met up and we talked. And he was going to go and talk to Alishay about, because she's in charge of whether you're able to talk to me or not. And so, anyways, that's what I know. And our talk went really well. And so I'm continuing to just do what I can with all the relationships and know that I love you and I care about you so much. All right. I'll talk to you later.